Welcome back, folks. We're here at the IES conference 2019 in beautiful Louisville, Kentucky. You know what I was saying, Greg, that the real problem with Louisville is that I can't figure out which bourbon's the best kind.
I'm not sure that's a problem.
It's a problem for me. Well, Jane Slade,
Hello.
we started to have a conversation last night at Churchill Downs, and then we were a couple sentences in, and we put the brakes on it, and we said, no, we got to push record or send this one out to the live stream folks out there. You're really passionate about something. What is it?
It's how lighting pollution impacts wildlife.
Can't the birds fly somewhere else?
Well, there's only one planet, and we have humans' iPhones in our pocket, which tell us key information about survival instincts. Like we can find out the weather, or we can find out the temperature. But for animals, having information about light and a view of the night sky is a first line of defense.
You know, one of the terms in this industry that has always made me really uncomfortable and then now kind of disgusts me is human-centric lighting.
Agreed. Could not agree more. It really bothers me as well.
It's like, it's all about humans. No, actually, no. And actually, humans are a part of a larger womb ecosystem we call Mother Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, she's got her own things going on that we might want to become a little more aware of if we want to survive for a long time. What do we do about this? Because there's just not enough people that are aware of lighting impact on wildlife. There's a lot of like completely unaware that, oh yeah, no, the brighter the better. Smash up that glare bomb, along that highway, along the beach and all that sort of stuff. And no, there's actually a lot of things that are happening that, light is causing trouble for. Where do you want to start with this thing?
Well, I think the first thing is awareness. So there's actually a psychological concept where if you learn a psychological concept, like if I were to tell you, you make friends in networks.
Okay.
And then, a while down the line, you're like, oh, of course, humans make friends in networks. I've always known that. So the concept is that you think you always have known that concept. So I'm hoping that this information, when we get this information out to most people, that it becomes common knowledge that light is triggering for all species and that we absolutely need darkness at all points of our daily cycle. I mean, not at all points, but as in we need darkness and a constant interval within a 24-hour cycle.
I believe the psychological concept you're talking about is called the Cascade Effect.
I've lost the term for that, but I never forgot it when I learned it in college.
Yeah, it's called the Cascade Effect, right?
Yeah.
So it cascades, right, and forward. But yes, so go ahead, Greg.
I was just going to say, so you're saying we need to turn off lights at night?
We absolutely need to turn off lights at night, but I think the first key thing is that people just don't know. They're not monsters, but right now they're going to Home Depot for a sink and they see this gorgeous tree lighter shining up as an option for their driveway, and they're like, oh, maybe I should go buy that. And it's this blue, highly triggering wavelength.
Sure.
They put it in the trees. They awaken the birds at night. They affect the tree's ability to photosynthesize. So this is something that we're kind of like misguiding people through product placement. But if we let them know that there's an issue, they're not monsters. They don't want to be doing this. So it's really the first thing is awareness, and then, yes, turning lights off at night. My call to action is turning lights out from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. every day.
Isn't that a security concern?
That is a misconception. So one of the reasons why we're in this position is that there is under the surface this litigious thinking that more light is safer. The truth is we have a beautiful light source in the sky at night. It's the moon. The moon, our eyes can adjust to the moon. We can walk by the light of the moon. Some species are actually triggered by light lower than starlight. So we are really obliterating our ability to see naturally at night. And studies show that more light is just more wattage, that it's not necessarily safer. In fact, we can over-adapt the eye to darkness or to light and then because of that, the eye can no longer see in the shadows, making it easier for people to hide in the shadows, for obstacles to trip over. So there's a better way to be doing this than we have, but what's driving it is the idea that more light is safer or more secure, and it's not really true. And we've ratcheted ourselves up to these really high light levels. Now we're in this sort of light addiction where we can't actually imagine a place where we could see by the light of the moon, but that's what we've always done.
It is crazy sometimes at night when, especially in like the winter, when it reflects off the snow and how bright it really can be. You look outside sometimes and it's like, it seems like it's day, but it's midnight and it just happens to have all the reflections. So I agree.
Yeah.
How about censoring lights at night? Is that something you believe in as a?
Absolutely. I do think that there is a call for lights and so the idea of controls implies that we've not been in control of our lighting.
True.
So if you have a light on a control, if it's a sensor or if you've scheduled it, that's awesome. The problem is most of our lighting is really not controlled. So we don't, and then we tend to not take control over public spaces. So if I walk into a room and it's not mine, I'm not necessarily going to authorize myself to turn the light levels to a certain way. But that's why we really need to have overarching smart technology to control lighting. The technology is there. We just haven't gotten to the habit of using it to the amount that we should be using it.
All human cultures sacrificed animals. Okay. So they would take the fattest calf, they would slit its throat, they would put it on a pile of rocks and they would burn it, their best calf, and send the smoke to heaven. And I tell people this and they're like, why would our ancestors want to send burned goat smoke up to the sky? Because they had a really deep relationship with the stars. Like imagine if you saw the stars every night of your life. And every night of your life you came out of your house and your kids were asleep and you looked up and you were just like, holy macaroni. Like that's God, right? In a way. So that's why they did that, right? So that's not why. I mean, that's not the actual answer. Nobody knows the answer, but it is the answer. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's exactly why they did that. Because up there was God or the mystery of the universe or just awesomeness or sublimity, whatever you want to call it, right? We've lost our relationship to that totally.
Right. I feel two ways about that. One is that, as you said before, the idea of human-centric lighting.
It's all about me.
It's all about.
What's the right term?
Well, I mean, that term is implying that you are caring about more than just illumination and getting enough light to do versus you're actually making it feel a certain way. So you're kind of, it does imply more depth than maybe where we've come from. I would say, though, that the dark sky discussion has often been centered around that loss of the view of the night sky for humans and not necessarily getting to a much more urgent issue, which is that light, there's no species on the face of the planet that is not impacted by light pollution. Because
Impacted negatively.
Yes.
Always. There's never positives.
I can't say that for sure, but I don't think I want to say that at all because I don't want to further this problem. I mean, there's light therapy, but I don't think that the mammals are coming out of the woodwork for human light therapy. So the discussion is often centered around our loss of the night sky and not getting to the more crucial issue, which is that there was recently a landmark UN report showing that we're pushing the plants and animals, or the animals especially, to the corners of the earth. In fact, some animals are behaving more nocturnally to avoid humans. So we're really creating a place where the animals are kind of avoiding us because of light. So that's really the more urgent issue, because if you're talking about human-centric, what's going to be more impactful? The light of my iPhone at 11 p.m. at night when I'm, reading and I shouldn't be putting light onto my retina, or the fact that I've triggered the circadian rhythms of thousands of species, and I'm interconnected with all of that entire network. Where I do think the night sky and a view of the night sky is a really big issue for humans is that it furthers the disconnection. And so while I don't want to get too far down the road of nostalgia for that, because I think the urgent issue is the plants and animals and the impact there, I do think when we lack that connection to the stars, that it disconnects us even further from the impacts we're creating. So I feel two ways about the views of the night sky, because I think it's actually really important for our ability to reconnect with our ecosystem and our planet and the natural way of living. But I'm not that sad about, humans not being able to look at the stars, because I think that has displaced the real topic.
So there's a dark sky compliant fixtures. Do you believe that that's the correct terminology? Is there such a thing as a dark sky fixture? Is that the right move?
Yes.
Is that a start?
So this is going to get me into maybe the hot seat here.
You're live right now, okay? So watch the
I know.
watch the names of companies and anything like that.
Right, of course. No, but I do have some opinions about dark sky, which is that it's super important to direct light downward. And yet, when you are walking around this conference and you see all of the lighting that's possible to specify, especially in exterior environments, a lot of those fixtures are upward in their directionality of the light. And those fixtures continue to be specified. So, and on top of that, there are a lot of exterior spaces that call for developing a friendly community space for people to be able to be invited and feel safe. There are projects that really develop an exterior space so that it's not just downward lighting. And I think that is definitely the direction we should ultimately end up going. But at this stage, I don't think there's enough awareness that having to always specify dark sky fixtures is necessarily the answer right now. I think what we need to do is implement controls and turn the lights off at night when they're not in use. That is going to be our first step to really starting to make a change with lighting pollution. From there, I'd like to bring in more awareness so that slowly over time we get to more dark sky fixtures. But I think right now, I don't know if the community is 100% ready for it.
Yeah, no, I think it's stuff you'd have to change a lot of things to make it go. Even walking around last night for a little bit, there's buildings are lit up from the ground up.
Exactly.
All over the place. So you see it everywhere. But you think it's realistic that people are going to, your goal of 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., that I guess going back, you said you still need it in certain applications. Not every light is going to be turned off. It's just only when you need it.
Right.
So that's where the control comes in.
Yeah, so I'm big into human safety, human activity, but the problem is that we are just
you're not anti-human.
Not anti-human at
there's
all.
There's people that are like there's humans that think, gosh, you know what? If we just got rid of all these damn humans, we wouldn't have the problem we have now. And this sort of stuff. It's not we don't have a wolf problem in California. We have a human problem. The wolves are eating humans. It's like, no, take it easy there, big guy. But it's interesting. I think this is also a spiritual discussion.
Absolutely.
It's about who we are as a species and how we interact. And what I like to do is sometimes is like kind of blow people's minds with a weird comment or whatever, right? So you know who Galileo is, right?
Yes.
So Galileo said the Earth's round. It's not flat, right? Now, there's a lot of anecdotal evidence for that. Right? Like when you watch a ship coming towards the land, it kind of rises up and you see the top of the mast first and it kind of rises up. The sun is round, the moon is round. When you look at the clouds off a cliff into the ocean or into the lake, they kind of look like they're going down. Right? So there's a lot of anecdotal evidence. So if someone comes to you and says, the Earth is round, it's a sphere or whatever, it's like, maybe. You know who Copernicus is, though, right?
Yes.
So he said that the Earth revolves around the sun. There is zero anecdotal evidence for that. Right? Like so he goes to the Pope. The Catholic Church, they didn't even believe when they said the Earth. It's not that obvious, bro. Okay? Like if someone comes to you and you're living in the Middle Ages and this priest comes to you and he says to you, yeah, you know what? what's that? I did the math, and the Earth actually revolves around the sun. But the moon revolves around, the moon revolves around the Earth, but the Earth revolves around the sun, buddy? Yeah, okay, sorry. But like people need to understand that we're on a wet rock moving at 14,000 kilometers an hour around a nuclear fission reactor that's spinning at 100,000 kilometers an hour through the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And all this is powered by light.
Right.
The whole thing, right? And in a way, humans are kind of like, they relate to light like fish do to water. It's kind of hard for us to know what it actually is.
Right. That's absolutely true. Yeah. It's so ever present.
Yeah, and if you say to people like, no, you got to turn the lights off at night, they're like, what are you talking about, man? That's not so. No, you're like, dude, you listen to me for a second. You know, we need to turn it off, because I think what you're saying is that wasted light at night is a form of hazardous waste.
Absolutely. And yet with this type of pollution, which I've deemed sensory pollution, so light pollution and sound pollution, people don't necessarily give the credence to these types of pollution that they might say with air pollution or water pollution, because there's the idea that there's something physical that's being ingested or going in.
Sure.
And that is much more alarming in nature than the idea of like sound. Okay, you know, turn up the volume or turn down the volume. That seems a lot less harmful, but it doesn't necessarily, that's not necessarily true. And back to your point, what you were saying before, do I think that we can come to a place where we turn the lights out from 12 to 6? Well, if you look at cigarettes, people used to smoke cigarettes in the 50s all the time. Somebody's still going to turn on a light, somebody's still going to smoke a cigarette here and there. But for the most part, this is something that people have changed greatly in their habits. And I think that we can definitely come back to a place of honoring darkness through getting the awareness out.
It's going to have to be regulated to some degree, or forced, or put into code that you have to do this.
Absolutely. Well, one thing I've been wanting to do is actually writing a children's book on the topic, because I think if we can get this information into children's minds, also having parents read the book to children, it's a great gentle way of making
Children's
this
books are for
information-
adults.
A little bit, it's true.
You ever read the one about the dragon and the boy?
No.
So the boy is upstairs in his room, and he wakes up and there's a little dragon there in his room. And he goes downstairs and he says, Mom, there's a dragon following me. And the mom says, that's not possible, son, because dragons don't exist. The dragon gets bigger. And then he's sitting down and he's eating breakfast, and the dragon's eating his pancakes. And the boy says, Mom, I can't eat my breakfast. And she says, why is that, son? She says, because there's a dragon eating my breakfast. And the mom says, that's not possible, son, because dragons don't exist. The dragon gets bigger. Right? So then he goes to school, and the dragon's following him to school, and he says to his teacher, like, I can't hand in my homework because the dragon ate my homework. And the teacher said, Johnny, that's not possible because dragons don't exist. Dragon gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and all this denial of the dragon makes the dragon bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And then eventually they're outside their home, they're looking at the house, the dragon is out the front door, his tail's going out the back, right? And he's like, we can't go inside, Mom, because the dragon's filled up our whole house. And the mom says, that's not possible, son, because dragons don't exist. And then the dragon gets so huge, the dad comes home and the dragon's running off with the house. And then the dad's looking at the mom and like, no, maybe dragons do exist, actually. Right? It's so like this denial of our problems that makes them worse and worse and
Right.
grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger. And you know, I heard a comment from a Canadian politician one time, and he said, you know, the true sign of intelligent society is not technology, it's not iPhones, it's how we handle our hazardous waste. Right? If we're filling our lakes with garbage and we're polluting our land and all that, we're really stupid, actually.
Yes. Yeah.
Regardless as how many iPhones or whether we can go to the moon or whatever it is that you think is a sign of intelligence, if you're taking fluorescent tubes, say, and dumping them into the landfill and filling that landfill with mercury, you're an idiot. Like, you're a stupid idiot. I hate to say it. Like you're stupid beyond belief, actually.
Yeah.
You know, and and I think it's time for us to consider, you know, light at night, wasted light at night. Not all light is wasted light is hazardous waste, but outdoor lighting at night is hazardous waste.
Yes. And actually, there's new information that when They were analyzing the air in Los Angeles, and because that air is so much filled with soft particulate and dust, that there's even more sky glow because the light is able to re-reflect off those trillions of mirrors.
Mm.
I just learned this yesterday, so this definitely needs a deep dive on my part. But when light is warm and when air is warm and lit, you actually prevent the natural process of air being cleaned through free radical nitrates. So for some reason, when the air is warmer and more illuminated, it's actually creates more of a problem in terms of air pollution. So those are also related.
So we start with the South, the desert. No more light for them. Minnesota's okay. We can keep it out at night in the cold. Not quite, but
Right, exactly. Well, exactly. So the warmer air, which really just points to a very cyclical problem because of the fact that our climate is on general warming anyway,
Mhm.
but that there is a relation there between air pollution and light pollution.
Is there an animal or a species that's most affected by light pollution? That there's been studies that this species is the most negatively affected by this.
Birds are a really commonly affected species. One thing is, yes, they navigate by the light of the stars. So there's a map there.
Hmm.
They use the map of the stars to find their way. Some birds will navigate 50,000 miles in a year.
Wow.
The Arctic tern chases summer down to Antarctica and then back up to the Arctic.
You're a badass, Arctic churn, because that's crazy shit.
Yes. And
Sorry, I hate to say it, swear on the live stream, but like you think about that,
yeah,
like that is absolutely incredible, man.
it is.
That's a miracle.
It is a miracle. And the birds will follow the light of the sun and the stars. They also use geomagnetic forces. Geomagnetic forces are not consistent across the face of the earth, which is why you have multiple migratory mechanisms. One major issue, though, with birds is that
They poop on my car.
that is a huge issue. I didn't think we'd get to that. I'm glad we did. But they do not read glass as form, but rather as void. So when there is a glass reflective surface that shows especially the canopy of a tree, the birds have actually evolved to be able to fly about 35 miles an hour through tree canopies. So they can fly
So they're
like
booking it.
acrobats.
They're booking it.
Yeah, like acrobats. They're going through these tree canopies. When you have a glass exposure overlooking a garden area with trees, this is a beautiful condition for humans, extremely dangerous for birds because birds will be booking it through the trees, hit the window wall, and they usually die at that speed. So it's estimated that up to 1 billion birds die in North America due to fatal flight into buildings. So this is a form of light pollution that is straight up killing the species, not just navigating them off course, but really drawing them in. And for some birds, it's been cited that some birds actually, their species, it's biologically significant for their species, how many are killed by fatal flight into buildings.
I think it's actually a form of a new type of natural selection.
I don't know that
No,
I
it is.
like that.
No, but it's like, so there's a movement in Toronto to stop making towers of glass. So all of like Toronto has 141 cranes. There's more construction in Toronto than anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
There's cranes everywhere in Toronto, and all of those buildings are made of glass.
Mm-hmm.
Aluminum and glass, the exteriors, right? And people are talking about, we got to stop making buildings of glass. And people are like, what are you talking about, dude? I'm trying to take my garbage out on Thursday. I got to take my kids to daycare. What is this issue? Light at night, and it gets crazy. But you know, I really think our relationship to light, our relationship to other species and animals, is something that, you know, it's an Adam and Eve argument.
Mm-hmm.
It's the garden that we, you know, as conscious beings, we are called to cultivate the garden and to make it, you know, make it a place you want to live.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like even when you think about America in a way is like a walled garden, right? Canada's like a walled garden. It's a mental picture in your mind. There's no lion on the 49th parallel, right? And so, like, we have to care for our gardens in a sense. We're so powerful as a species, yet we move like dumb elephants, crushing, like destroying things in our path in a way. And there's a call to like sit back and stop and think about, what our relationship is, not from a cocky anti-human sense,
Right.
these damn humans or whatever. But it's like when I heard about, I'm almost going to cry actually thinking about when I heard about the turtles going the wrong way because of the LED lights. Oh man, I was just like, that's so horrible.
Yeah, it's terribly sad.
It's so horrible.
Yeah.
Like these turtles are actually going the wrong way because they think that stupid LED light is the moon.
Right. And then they die of dehydration in the
Oh,
sand.
I'm
or
almost going to cry
predators.
thinking about it. It's such a tragedy, actually.
Yeah. But it's also other animals. And that's one thing that I mention when I talk on the subject is that I will ask how many people have heard of the sea turtle problem, and many people will raise their hands. But then I ask how many people have heard about dung beetles. And a lot fewer raise their hands.
Those gross dung beetles. Those are gross.
Exactly. And
Come on, man. The rats aren't cute.
I contrast those two species because humans have glommed on to the sea turtle issue because they're adorable and they die in the beach. These are places we want to be. So
that's so human-centric of you.
Human-centric. But dung beetles, they did a study.
They smell like crap, though. Get those dung beetles out of here.
They actually reuse that waste.
Yeah, those dung beetles.
So dung beetles, they put them in a planetarium. When the lights were on, the animals moved in straight, narrow paths. When they turned the lights out, they moved in random, scattered movement. The reason that they move in straight paths is to avoid competitors and predators. But the point is to say that even animals as tiny as dung beetles, with tiny little brains, they're utilizing the map of the stars to navigate through the earth. So this is a profound connection that animals need to have to the view of the stars, but it's happening from sea turtles to dung beetles to zooplankton to whales. There's really no species that's not directly or indirectly impacted by a disconnection from natural light.
Well, I'm going to say this. So, and a great man that I know well, who's changed the way I think about things. His name's Luke Sellers, but he said something once that I really think that is impactful when we think about who we are. And he said, we are created in the image and likeness of God. Right, but we humans in our egos create. We humans create God in the image and likeness of our ego. And we have to stop doing that. We have to stop serving the quickest thing that gives us the hit or makes us, oh yeah, shit, get a light out there. Yeah, that's good. Okay, we have to think through these problems, and it's so deep. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe children's books are an answer. I don't know if there is an answer to this, but all you can do is create awareness in a sense, and from a humble perspective.
Right. It's true. So currently, I'm a columnist in the LDNA magazine and I've been primarily writing about wildlife. I do also want to write a children's book and then ultimately write the book for adult humans. So I think there's a lot we can do in terms of getting the awareness out there and then continuing to educate, connect at conferences like here at the IES annual conference in Louisville. I think that the more we make this common knowledge, the more empowered we will be to be able to say, look, it may seem safer, but actually it's better to turn the lights out at night. And I think once we get to a place of empowerment, we'll be able to influence and get rid of the influence of litigious thinking that more light is safer. Because right now those two are in contention. The wildlife and the needs of wildlife to be able to connect to darkness, and then American or human ideas of thinking that more light is safer, so let's just add another LED. I think if we can get that idea sort of out of the mainstream and that we really need to get back to the natural daylight cycle, bringing darkness really into our idea of lighting, then I think we can get back to a place of really improving our environment.
You know what the problem with lawyers is?
What's that?
They live in the past.
They live in the past that's based on rules that got to a place of being accepted. And it's hard to make new rules. And that comes with the new generation. And I think we're getting to that. When I'm here at this conference, I really have been hearing a lot of people saying, yeah, that's great, but what about just getting back to the way nature did it?
Greg called it, but I want to just maybe finish with we're supposed to be half an hour. We're going to go a little longer on this one. So, you ever go to the zoo? You sound like
Yeah.
you go to the zoo a lot, right? Zoos make me sad, but
Of
I
course.
love zoos at the same
Yeah.
time. Like I have a love-hate relationship with zoos, and I like to watch the chimpanzees. Okay, so or bonobos or gorillas too. I love watching them. So if you sit down and you watch the chimpanzees for a while in the zoo, you're going to figure out that there's an alpha male there, and you're going to figure out there's a female, and then you're going to see the alpha male. If he comes and grabs a banana from Greg, Greg doesn't do anything. But if one of the other
My
males comes and grabs a banana from him, Greg chases after him, pulls his ear, and grabs the banana back. Right, and then you'll see the female chimps over here, and then one of them seems to get groomed a little more than the other ones.
Yeah.
Right, and they picking the fleas off or eating them or whatever. They all get groomed, but this one seems to get groomed the most. Right, and then you can kind of see. And what I'm saying is that you can understand what they're saying to each other.
Yes.
Right, you can
Absolutely.
speak their language in a way. Right, and all these things that we write, it's so gross. You know, I wrote it on paper. Right. It's written down on paper in the language of the naked ape. Right? Right? We don't need more regulations and rules. We need better mores. We need deeper rules that go
Yes.
beyond what's written down.
Absolutely.
It's like, I didn't do anything wrong. Why is that? Because on paper it says this. I'm not afraid of a fucking piece of paper, man. Sorry, I
Right.
swore on the throat. Like, take your paper and get your paper out of here.
Right.
We got to start doing the right thing. We all know what's right. We can see it when we watch chimpanzees. They know what's right too.
Right.
So do dolphins. We can watch them. They know how to behave. And we are so deep in our egos with our stupid phones. We think we're so smart.
That's why, getting back to the cascading
Yeah, sure.
psychological concept, that's why, yes, we can have rules, but I am so hoping that through awareness, we can make this common knowledge. And then that's a much more powerful piece of information and way of thinking about it than if it's a rule that someone has to look up this level of foot candles to be on pavement at this time of night. That's a great support to the common knowledge.
Yes.
But I'm just truly hoping that once it becomes information that is out there that you can't unknow, that blaring a fixture at 3 a.m. up into a tree won't create impact.
We don't need a 40-page technical memorandum.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like, to turn it off, buddy. So, folks, we're re-enchanting the night here with Jane Slade, and we want to bring back A Midsummer Night's Dream and some Starry Skies. But for right now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about one of my favorite manufacturers, Greg, Kurtzon Lighting.
Specification grade.
Go to kurtzon.com, baby. That's kurtzon.com. Let's re-enchant the night, man.
Time to get it started.
Thanks for listening, folks. Bye for now.